Welcome to Closing the Loop on Quality, establishing digital product traceability, change management, and regulatory submission compliance. During this session, Mike Prudhomme and myself will be covering a range of topics about leveraging your digital thread. We are both part of the PTC Windchill product management organization. We know developing products today create many challenges across the development cycle. We find more complexity, more complex products, and deploying them in more complex environments. Distributed multidiscipline teams and organizations working around the globe and around the clock. Unclear and ever-changing customer needs and acceptance criteria. At the same time, we see rapidly maturing and changing industry regulations for safety and security standards, differences in engineering process maturity, and updates to best practice methodology. Finally, everyone has a concern around delivering the right cost, the right quality, and the right productivity across their enterprise. So how do we identify early problems and resolutions, and how do we accelerate product development with increased collaboration? To be able to drive those benefits to your organization, the digital thread is used to connect your product across the product development lifecycle, including upstream and downstream product and process information. The digital thread connects all of those upstream and downstream product and process across heterogeneous systems, enabling digital transformation across the enterprise. It creates continuity and accessibility to product data to users across the enterprise, enabling you to execute processes across organizations through these connections. In this session, we're going to be focusing on 3 parts of the digital thread used to help drive value and improve quality in your product design process. That includes starting with looking at how requirements can be traced to product design to make it easier and more faster for the organization to understand what requirements and system information are driving product design. We'll be also looking into how to improve your change management process with greater visibility using change redlines. Finally, we'll be closing the loop for companies in regulated industries on how they gather and submit their regulatory processes. So let's take a look at some kinds of benefits that companies are realizing today with these methodologies. So as an example, Nidec Global Appliance realized 40% reduction in the cost of poor quality by establishing a digital thread for their product design and development process. Cole Green realized an 80% decrease in late-stage engineering processes by better tying their information together. Vaillant saw a 53% improvement in first-pass yield, 16% reduction in rework, and 28% faster time to implement a change. Finally, LSI LED Lighting saw a 20% improvement in product development productivity, which enhanced their product quality. These are all examples of how these companies were able to use the tools to develop a thread and make the information available to everyone in the enterprise, making it available earlier in the cycle, exposed to more people, and exposing challenges and taking care of them before they actually happened. So let's start on that path by looking at digital product traceability and how that improves your product development process. So what is digital product traceability? And let's start with the current situation today. So today, we have people working on requirements, maybe model-based systems engineering, PLM working on BOM and CAD and document management, and finally maybe some test systems. How do people solve their challenges with managing this information today? Many times it's siloed, disconnected systems. If there's a change, who knows what has to happen? Many times it's a manual interaction to flow that information with lots of spreadsheets across the organization. This leads to increased time to market, lower product quality, disconnected change processes, and missed regulatory needs. What we're going to look at is how PTC helps you establish the digital product traceability, creating trace links across product data, including requirements, model-based systems engineering, and PLM, including PTC's Windchill RVNS, Windchill Modeler, and of course the Windchill product. This enables cross-discipline collaboration and improving product quality as everyone is aware of the requirements and system impacts as they're completing their design methodology. PTC leverages the Open Services Lifecycle Collaboration Standard, or OSLC. So this is a standard-based methodology to provide lightweight traceability across systems designed to make it easy to maintain. It's also an open and extensible standard which PTC has been taking advantage of to improve our capabilities. When we look at the digital product traceability solution footprint, in this example here, we can see that we've created a network of relationships between Windchill RVNS for requirements and potentially test, Windchill Modeler for functions and logical structure, tied to Windchill EBOM, where it can be tied to parts, options and choices, as well as documents. We also support the ability to trace to other systems such as Doors NG. And we should emphasize that this is really just an example, and how you might want to relate this information together can be varied depending upon your need. Maybe it's right from Windchill RVNS to parts and BOM information. Maybe it's connecting Windchill RVNS and Modeler. So it's an extremely flexible methodology giving you the capability to determine what's best for your enterprise. The capabilities include being able to trace requirements and models into the product development lifecycle. Leveraging OSLC-based traceability, we give you the ability to trace requirements and architecture and more to data in Windchill. Enabling suspecting across systems so you can determine if something needs to be followed up on to determine if a change is required. We also surface the ability to expose that trace data in change processes in Windchill. Data from Windchill Modeler and Windchill RVNS can be shown as affected data in problem reports, deviations, waivers, and change requests, allowing you to start that cross-system impact analysis earlier in the cycle to understand what's impacted both upstream and downstream. Finally, enabling this traceability allows you to have compliance with standards such as ISO 26262 or DO 178 and 254. With Windchill 12 and up, we have the ability to create traces with Windchill RVNS, IBM Doors Next Gen, and Windchill Modeler. Because this is OSLC based, if you have an OSLC system, you have the ability to configure other systems into the OSLC through configuration-based methodologies. So let's take a look at an example of what is enabled with digital product traceability, and let's look at an example of what's available in Windchill. So in this example, we're going to start to look at a part in a product structure, and we can see we have some traces to system engineering data, including a class diagram, block diagram, and a use case diagram. We can see the information from the remote system, so it's always up to date. We can also get the remote preview of the data so the user can see more information as well as navigate to their remote system. If the user determines that they might need a requirement here, they can now create a trace to, in this case, Windchill RVNS. We're going to select the trace link type that we want and what project in RVNS we want to search for the trace. Now we're looking through a Windchill RVNS UI to find the trace information. And in this case, the user just did a wildcard search, but you could search on all sorts of specific information to get the detail of what you're looking for. The user selects the requirements they want to trace to, and those traces are now created and shown in Windchill. Notice here we can see richer information right in the Windchill environment. We can display the rich text information so the user can see a lot more detail without having to navigate across to that other system. So if they're doing product design, it's available. They can also leverage the remote information page to see more information there, as well as navigate to that remote system if they have a license. If we want to reuse this requirement on another part, we could add it there, but it's also we can simply now copy and paste it. So in this example, we copied it from the one part, and we're simply going to trace it to paste it rather to the next part to simply add it to this next part, making it very quick and easy to create the trace information to the different parts where it's required. Now finally, let's take a look at an example of a change. Maybe we need to do a change to this part. We started with a change request, and on it we just have the part, but we want to see, are there other things impacting that we might need to consider changing if a change is being started at the enterprise level. So in this example, we're going to start on the change. We're going to collect from the part the upstream data, and you will see we will get the remote trace information both from Windchill Modeler and Windchill RVNS, making that information available right in your change environment, enabling you to have broader impact analysis in your change management processes. So in this short video, we looked at the ability to capture and trace that remote requirement and model information, make it easy for your users to see it and expose it in the change process, giving you a huge step to being able to better understand and communicate requirements across the enterprise. Now let's take a look at another part of the digital thread, change management, and we'll focus on capabilities around redline. So some challenges that people have in change management is it's not always easy to understand the goal of a change so that everyone can easily review and approve. Also, how can I plan the change? How can I plan changes to the BOM that shows the planned updates without actually having to execute and make that revision? Maybe we're not ready to make it, but we want to communicate what we're going to do. And we know traditionally people have used lots of spreadsheets to do this. And then finally, we might have situations where we need to create an out-of-order change. How do we do that without creating lots of rework in the enterprise? So starting with Windchill 12.0.1, we've introduced a redlining capability that we're continuing to enhance and will continue to enhance. So some of the goals of this are to simplify the understanding of the intent of a change and the results of a change, enable users to identify and review changes before committing them, and support out-of-order change execution. Some of the concepts that we're using to enable this are the ability to plan changes through red lines and vary the order. We've also started to formalize differentiating the planning and execution phases of the change management process while supporting more types of change execution, such as save as during change planning and in a change notice. The change red lines allow you to plan and execute the BOM changes and allow teams to review them before applying the changes. The red lines themselves are created in a BOM redline editor that is launched from a change task and a change notice, allows you to mark up the planned BOM changes, including part attribute changes and part usage changes, such as quantity, unit of measure, reference designator, and you can insert, remove, change, as well as replace with new and replace with existing. You then apply the red line only when appropriate. So revising the part in the change task automatically applies the red line markups, and this then enables you to do the out-of-the-order changes because you're then only making the revision and applying those changes when it's absolutely the appropriate time. So let's take a look at one example of this in this process. And we're going to take a look at a video where I've got an A to D, D to A board, and we've got two changes, one for the power conditioning circuit and one for capacitor and diode updates. The power conditioning circuit changes are a change to a transistor. So let's take a look at the red line example. And we can see here in the bottom redline tool, we can see that we plan to replace the transistor with a different transistor as well as add a surface mount EMI filter. While working on that, we realized that there was a change that had to be made to the capacitors. So let's go ahead and actually make that change to the capacitors because it needs to happen right away in production. So we're going to come into our red line. We're going to start making our red lines here, and we'll start by updating this reference designator, which will also automatically capture the quantity change. Make a change to our find number. We're going to remove this capacitor because we've determined it might be an issue. And we're going to go check in that change so we can apply it. So now that we've created our red line, we're ready to go execute on that. So we will execute our change through the process, we'll submit it, and we'll jump ahead quickly to execute completing our change task. So we'll go to complete our change task, and as part of that, we're going to look at our resulting objects right in our change task, so we're not navigating anywhere. Editing our change to go and make that revision. So notice we've got the part here with the red line against it. When I revise it, it's going to automatically apply the red line to this BOM for me. So I did not have to do any work now. It automatically applied those red lines to this Rev B. I'll go ahead and complete that task. And let's just take a quick look at an info compare. So by doing that, if we look at our part usage differences, we can see the difference in the part that was removed. We can see the reference designator and the quantity changes. So those were all done automatically when we applied it. Now let's go ahead and finish our change. Now we've created Rev B of this Janus A to D, D to A. And then we had our open change. So then when we go look at our open change on Rev B for the power conditioning circuit, we can see that the red line is automatically carried forward to revision B. So now the user did not have to do any work, and they'll see their red lines compared against revision B, while the changes that we just made against revision A are done. So we just saw an example of planning changes, and those red lines can be used to review throughout the change process, the change notice process. And then we saw how we were able to execute one out of order without having to undo any previous work that was done. Another great example of how you can improve the quality of the work that engineering and the rest of the enterprise is doing and better communicate and collaborate on those changes. So now that we've taken a look at digital product traceability and change management, I'm going to transfer over to Mike Prudhomme to begin the discussion on regulatory submissions. So Mike, please take it away.
Windchill's core PLM capabilities can be tailored to create industry-specific configurations, such as FA&D, medical device, and others. With each of these industry-specific configurations, Windchill also provided regulatory compliance capabilities, which were typically configured and organized by partners to solve certain regulatory submission requirements. Recently, a group of med device customers asked PTC to review our approach and see if there was a better way to support regulatory compliance. At their request, PTC created a work group to review the problem and propose a solution. Using the medical device configuration as an illustrative example, we can compare the prior approach for regulatory configurations, which, while solving the problem, created dependencies. This made it complicated to quickly build and maintain submissions because any change to the modules listed in black here often required an update to Windchill and didn't allow partners to reuse existing solutions without rework. These two problems, the fact that Windchill can't be updated as fast as regulations change, and no easy way for partners to configure and reuse regulatory submissions, were primary targets for improvement. The work group met and proposed creation of a new Windchill module, the Regulatory Hub, which would tie together existing Windchill PLM capabilities and objects to create a framework which could be used by all industries, yet would be easy for customers and partners to add and update needed regulatory submissions. The PTC regulatory framework is based on a series of capabilities, regulatory objects, and modules, all which interact with our digital thread. This framework provides for the collection, management, and tracking of critical regulatory information. It includes core PLM capabilities such as workflows and change management, which are fully integrated with quality and regulatory information. Regulatory specific objects such as DHF and DMR for med device companies. And the Regulatory Hub, where all regulatory submissions are listed and which provides the coupling to geography-specific submission applications. The Windchill regulatory framework is now anchored by this Regulatory Hub module. This module indexes and tracks all regulatory submissions by type and geography, allowing for strong import-export control. It pulls content from different data stores in Windchill, such as regulatory docs, core product data, and regulatory specific objects, such as UDI for med device. The PTC regulatory framework, including the Regulatory Hub, separates the collection, organization, and tracking of regulatory data from the formatting and submission. Formatting is decoupled from the core PLM platform, as illustrated above in green, allowing you to quickly and easily change submission applications to meet advancing regulatory requirements. Starting from a product's design page, you will see that there is a regulatory tab. In this regulatory tab, you will notice that this product has a UDI superset, which is configurable to store data required for all geographies. This is an example of a regulatory specific object set. We can also see in the regulatory submission table that this product has a 510K submission along to the FDA along with certificate number and expiration date. Below that, we can see that this product has also been submitted for CE mark to the EU, but this submission is in progress. Clicking over to the browser, we can navigate to the divisional regulatory submission area, where we can see all the submissions for this division. This is useful when we have a system of products which have many components that can be individually approved. Additionally, by clicking on a given agency, we can look at all the regulatory submissions for that agency and filter as needed. Lastly, we can go to the regulatory submissions reports to get a picture of where we can export this product or product system. These reports are configurable for purpose, so they can be designed by people using them to advance the knowledge of import and export information. They're fully configurable. This new Windchill module has several benefits. The automatic flagging of market authorizations when products change. Geography-specific regulatory submissions can be changed now independent of each other, and then new regulatory requirements can be quickly added without changes to the core PLM platform. All of this reduces the regulatory risk of illegal import and late or inaccurate submissions. PTC's commitment to closing the loop on quality include digital product traceability, eliminating problems earlier in the life cycle, delivering enterprise access and collaboration on requirements and MBSE, standards traceability for ISO 26262, DO 175254, and others. Changes to redlines, improved understanding of plan changes, and enabling out-of-order changes. And lastly, the regulatory submissions that allow us to keep pace with regulatory requirements and easily scale to different submission needs.